If you're on a hike or caught in a survival situation, it's really helpful to have containers that are lightweight and weather resistant. So in this project, let's turn a couple of empty soda bottles into compact, lightweight, and waterproof soda cap containers. Let's start this project with a hotel key and a couple of plastic soda bottles. The first thing we need to do is cut the tops off, and if we turn them upside down and clamp them in a bench vise, it should be incredibly easy. Now if we use something like a hacksaw, we can use the bottom side of the flange as a cutting guide, and the goal here is to make the cut as clean as possible. When we're through to the other side, let's double check the flange to make sure it's completely flat, and if there are any ridges, we can easily shave them down with the saw blade. Now we're going to need a second cap, and this time I'm using a bottle with a black lid just for a little variety. This should allow us to color code the two ends of our container. Now depending on your purpose, it could be extremely important that the lids sit perfectly together, and to make sure that happens, let's go ahead and sand the bottoms with something like 150 grit sandpaper until they're perfectly flat. They don't have to be smooth though. In fact, the rougher they are, the better they're going to bond with an epoxy. While we're here, it's a good idea to roughen both sides of our hotel key as well, so let's go ahead and do that, then carefully trace around one of the caps with a marker. As we cut it out, you can see we'll end up with a plastic disc the exact same size as the caps. Now to make this thing as strong and lightweight as possible, let's try bonding it with a 2-part epoxy. This will need to be blended thoroughly for about a minute to make sure it sets up properly. Now without wasting too much time, let's apply a liberal amount of epoxy to the base of the caps, then carefully set the round divider on top and press it into place. If you already have epoxy on the other cap, just join it to the other side of the divider and simply leave it to harden. In about 2 hours, your container will be firm enough to handle, and a few hours after that, it should be fully ready to use. Now for an even stronger bond, try clamping both caps so they set together under pressure. If you don't have a bench vise or a set of bar clamps, try using a rubber band to keep things tight until the epoxy hardens. You can see here how the epoxy at the bottom has completely sealed everything off. That means this container will hold 2 different items and keep them completely separate. Now I added some special ingredients to mine and tucked it away in one of our first aid kits to help out in emergency situations. This will give us the power to ignite a survival fire without ever having to strike a match. Look for how this works in the Matchless Survival Fire project. I also tried another variation and found the simplest container could be made with 2 caps and some hot glue. It won't be as strong, but you can make them start to finish in under 3 minutes. This version is still super lightweight, water resistant, and will work really well for storing things like pills or small candies. You can see it's hollow all the way through, so the contents can be accessed from either end. This works well to protect your matches from the elements, or even make improvised hide-and-seek containers for geocaching. If the container ever does get wet, everything inside will be kept safe and dry. Now both variations weigh only half an ounce, or about 14 grams, but they can still hold up to 10 milliliters of fluid, which is the same amount as both of these glass bottles put together. By the way, if you epoxy the 2 bottles end to end, you'll have another variation that still looks really cool and will last for a really long time. Well, now you know how to turn 2 empty soda bottles into lightweight, multi-purpose containers that don't really cost anything to make, but will do a great job protecting your stuff.